All right. Thank you, Raquel. That was lovely. I appreciate you so much. My name is Amy Spain Duncan, and I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is March 6, 2010, and I am excited to introduce you guys to the lady that I picked tonight. And just to give you a little backstory on that, Rachel is with me a lot. If you've seen me anywhere, Rachel is my get in the car girl, and she's my best friend, and we have a history together. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to do this with Rachel because, on page 45, it talks about, we have this God idea, and it brought up a particular idea of him which someone had tried to impress us during childhood. So this is the God I show up with, right? The God that I was impressed with in childhood. And it was a limited belief. It was a confused belief. There was no understanding. And I don't even think whatever they tried to impress me with, it didn't stamp right. Like, I don't think people told me what I then believed later. But these are the ideas that I'm working with, and I'm moving through life with these incorrect, old, outdated ideas about God. And so that line always stuck with me. And so when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I love, I know so much of what I know and what I've learned, from a lot of the women here, including Teresa, who said one time, remember Rachel, she said, the steps are an invitation, and they each invite us to something. And the invitation to explore the old ideas and about God and what that looks like. And so I was doing that, and I was 2-3 years sober, and I'm praying. I got doing a lot of 12-step work. I'm reading my book. I'm not meditating. I'm helping others, whether they want it or not. And cause that's where the 12 stomping comes in. And I met Rachel, and Rachel was in detox. And so Rachel and I have explored the God idea together a lot. We've witnessed the power of God, the way Spirit moves in our own lives, and bore witness to that happening countless men and women around us. But my practice, my spiritual practices were lacking because I didn't meditate. But Rachel, and you can talk about this, Rachel, you were drawn to that almost instantly. And so from early on was doing that meditation, and then you brought that piece to me, and then it got even bigger, the expansion.
Absolutely. So when I came in, I was not thinking anything about the old idea or the new idea of God or God in any way, shape, or form. I was actually treating some consequences.
Yeah.
So I got offered to either go to prison for 5 years or to go to treatment. And, like Bill, treatment seemed wise. And that's where I met you, of course.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that, I first experienced, it had to do with my daughter, and, it's difficult for me to think of some of the things that happened, with, my daughter. And, one of the things that I remember you, saying to me when that stuff started coming up for me was, Rachel, when you were in all those jackpot situations, right? Like when you were in those places where you shouldn't have walked out of them, right? When you were at your lowest, where you were in, those sordid places, man, and you made it, and you got to this point where you are here. Do you believe that there was something with you? Do you believe there was a power greater? Do you believe that God was there? And I had to say yes. I had to say, how else? How else could we get out of those situations? How else could we, be alive to sit here today, to be, on this meeting together? And so you told me, then why wouldn't that same God be there with your daughter, through all this? The first experience I had with meditation, and I did really I even got my daughter to go to meditation classes.
Yeah, you took classes and courses. I was like, go girl, get it.
But do you remember what I told you I used to do? Like when I would sit on my first experience, when I sat on my top bunk, of the.
Oh, no, I thought you were going to tell the story about your old ideas or those, when you would crawl into your aunt's room
Oh, yes. So that
and
was,
pray over her. Tell that because that is some of that stuff we come in with.
it is, it is.
And
And,
I love that story because I love the innocence of a child, and then that thing you took on and carried
yeah,
was just,
so what Amy's talking about is the old ideas that I came in with, right? Like, and what I knew is that like my mom was raised Catholic and I had heard about God. And so nobody told me, they didn't take me to church. I was never
mhm.
baptized, none of that stuff, right? And so, I just decided these things in my head. I had made a decision, like this is what God's about. And, my Aunt Sharon, so she, was sick with cancer and it was the 80s, right? And she was getting chemotherapy. She was getting radiation. She was very, very sick, and as a little child, I didn't understand. Nobody was talking to me about this, but I knew my Aunt Sharon, and I loved her. And she was so very sick in that bed, and there was like a low light on, and so I creaked the door open and I crawled on my hands and knees, right? And I crawled up to the bed, and I put my little hand in her hand. And I remember her talking to me, and she was the only one that I remember talking to me about her illness, and she told me that she was sick, and she showed me what the chemotherapy had done, the radiation, the blisters, right? I remember that. And when I left that room, what I thought was, this great big God, right? That everybody talks about, that's supposed to be all powerful, that can do anything, like no limitations, right? Could fix this. And I needed to say the right prayers at the right time, and constantly. And that's what I did, man. I just over and over and over just asked God to make her well, and I put the weight of the world on my shoulders, and that's what I carried. That was the God, that was the God idea that I brought in here. And she didn't get better, right? She didn't get better and she ended up dying. And then I had the idea that she was in purgatory, and there was that big pearly gate with that little piggy bank over here, and every prayer was a coin in there. And I had to get enough coins so that they'd let her into heaven. And that's what I believed, man. That's what I believed as a child. And that's what I brought.
It's a lot of responsibility.
I
Raised,
was like
I
8,
know, right?
7,
Oh
8
my
years
gosh.
old.
No wonder you needed a drink. That's
Exactly.
too much. That's too
Yeah.
much. Well,
Exactly.
yeah, there we are. There
Yeah.
we are. I think it's cool though. And then God's gone, right? Or
Oh yeah.
because when we're in the madness, it's just
I
darkness.
did.
It's,
I
yeah,
didn't have God. Some people say they prayed all through the, like
I've heard
they were
that.
drinking, people were praying and stuff. That's just not my story. There was one time I went into a Catholic church and I don't even know why, but I knew because when I eventually got here and I did feel, that feeling you can't describe. And that's kind
Yeah.
of how I know it's real, right? That feeling
Oh, well,
inside. Oh, what is
me and
it?
Rach having a conversation gets crazy, guys. So hang on, because
It
this is
is,
how we talk.
it
But
is.
squirrel. Um, I wanted you that when you were walking around the horseshoe and
Mm.
asked for proof of God.
Oh, wow.
That
Um,
was
that's a good
powerful.
one. So I'd seen it in the girls' lives. So I'd walked out. So we were in a homeless shelter that had a recovery program, and we were in there with 250 women, and Amy's sponsoring me. Amy's a nurse now. She's over here, right? And what I'm watching is I'm watching God in other people's lives, but I had yet to really like internally think about that. And so I'm walking around this horseshoe, right? And all these things that happened that I thought were devastating. I had to start my program over again. Why is my life so hard? In the homeless shelter, right?
We're so dramatic.
What? Okay. I
End of
look
the
back.
world.
Oh my gosh. But I was sitting there and I was walking around and I just had this internal thought, and I can remember, where I was in the horseshoe, and I can remember what step I was taking. I can still see that closet. I can still see those shoes. I can still see those hangers, man. And I can still see my foot. like going forward. And it was a split second thought of like, basically, what if this is all BS and there is no God? And like when my foot went down, what happened was a spiritual experience. The only way I've come to describe it, and my dad's told me he had a similar experience before, is that if you took all the color out of the world and everything was gray, and the vibrations and the things that we feel just emptied out, like it was like a total emptiness. And I don't know if it was a half a millisecond. I don't know if it was 3 minutes. Like there was no time. It just emptied. Everything in the world emptied around me. I emptied, and I knew that that was no God. I knew it, right? Like I knew that that was what I had experienced, man. And it came back. Obviously, the color came back and everything came back, and I was like, whoa, like, okay. And that night, when I got in the top bunk of that bed in the homeless shelter, I got on my knees and I began to just pray, and like I was just like, I don't want to be the woman that I was before. Please don't allow me to hurt these people that I love so much. I can never be here again. Please help me. I know you're real. I know you're real. Please help me. And I wasn't crying, but like tears were streaming down my face so much. It wetted my shirt. It wetted, like, that whole area was completely wet. And I don't even know how long I prayed. But I begged. Like I begged whatever that was that I didn't understand, that I didn't know, that, however long ago I was like, what if it's all bull in and there's not anything, and that's what I was doing, man. And it was beautiful, like.
Now, I feel like, and I think it's true. So we had this introduction to God because I had a similar God experience early on. And again, there's no understanding of God at this. There's not even a pretend to understand, or whatever. But there was these old ideas we came in with. Then there's the darkness, the disease, the annihilation of all things worthwhile, this pessimistic energy of negativity and darkness that kind of fuels us and allows us to move in those worlds, right? And then we kind of roll in here or crawl in here or however pour ourselves in to Alcoholics Anonymous, and we're bringing the doubts and the old ideas with us, and then we're working the steps, right? And so then we're getting fed like little moments, and me and you have both had those spiritual experiences where God is real. That it's just the questions removed. Like, boom, yes, that I'm sold.
6 and 7. Do the 6 and 7. Tell them.
Yeah, so I had the similar thing on 6 and 7, but it was the same thing. It was this begging, and somebody smarter than me knows where this is, but in our literature, it talks about what I think happened to me, and I think what happened to you is for the first time, we were humbled enough and desperate enough, right? Desperation and grace collide in this moment, and my need for God was it was just profound, and so I yelled out to God the same way, don't let me be this person, change me, this desperation to having seen myself as I actually was through 4th step and a 5th step. And then, so the 7th step prayer is just this death where I'm begging. I'm just like, God, if you're real, I knew God was real, cause I'm like you. God wears skin. God's a show off. We have I don't know, Rach, if you knew John, there's a guy in Louisville that, he's passed. John Anderson was his name. And he would always say, I can't see the wind, but I see what the wind does, right? And you've heard that before. You say, I've never seen God, but I've seen what God does. And that was what we experienced in that, initial, what I saw, that introduction to God was me watching you. And then this thing that would wonder if God would do that for me. Wonder if he would. And so that 6-7, now my, like yours, that void, that darkness, it wasn't a white light and surrounded in love and, electricity and butterflies. My God experience wasn't that. It was, my sponsor says it was an exorcism, but it was frightening. It was powerful. It was in your face. And what it felt like, and I don't talk about this often, but what it was, or what I experienced, was a force coming towards me, reaching down my throat and pulling darkness out of my mouth. And I'm doing this. And it's, this darkness is being like ripped from my soul, from my spirit, from my gut, from, my solar chakras and my root chakra. Like, it's going in there, it's pulling stuff out. And I'm, expelling it this way. And again, Rach, I don't know that I'm crying, but the floor is wet. I am wet. Tears are coming. And not sure how long it lasted. Crazy thing about that, when it let me go, when it released me, it was out here, like in front of me. And, that was a pretty energy. It was a beautiful, a safe glow. And then it was gone. And I couldn't move, like I collapsed. And as I got myself together and got up off the floor, I was in a bathroom. On a bathroom floor, and reached for the door. As I'm reaching from the door, I hear a voice. It says, "Tell someone what I did." Now this is 2010. I'm 8 months sober. I live in a homeless shelter with 250 other women. 8 months prior, I'm a street prostitute. This is my life. That's how I could not see this life from there, but that's where it was. And, I went and told my friend Lauren, cause I said, tell somebody what I did. I was like, weirdest shit just happened in the bathroom, man. I don't know. And then I got in this whole conversation about how like psychedelics store in your fat muscles and maybe one popped, and I just had a little trip. We weren't sure, trying to explain it. Fast forward 6 years. Yeah. I don't talk about that experience because it was weird and I don't tell people about it. I'm staying sober. I'm doing all the things we do. And I'm on a plane. I'm on a runway in an airplane with my dad and one of my spiritual advisors, Miss Pearl. And, we're flying to Anchorage, Alaska. I'm speaking at the Denali conference. And as the plane takes off down the runway, it's raining, it's dark, it's an early morning flight. And I'm looking out the window watching the runway, and it says, "Tell someone what I did." Mm-hmm. And I realized, like you guys know, this is what I do, but I didn't know in 2010 that's what it meant. That's crazy, right? Amazing. That's crazy. So we have these ideas, we've had these experiences, and now we're trying to put it in this practice. So, and I think right, Rach. So the God I knew as a child is not my understanding of God now. My God, in 2010 is, right? So you and I are in that 10 to 15 range, right? I'll have 16 years in March. You're what, 12, 13 years, 12. And I think that the God we understand now, when I hear Candace talk, when I hear Teresa talk, when I hear Leslie talk, well, I know that if we persist, if we stay on this journey, like this is where we're supposed to be now, right? Just like that was where we were supposed to be then. But I believe, if we persist, right? If we continue to seek, if we continue to do the work, if we continue the practice, that we'll have new experiences and new understandings 5 years, as we stick around here. Because I know when I listen to women with long-term sobriety, substantial sobriety, I mean, like solid women, practicing principles, like dedicated to this, like-minded women. Oh, my cats are fighting. Like-minded women, that I sit like a kid crisscross applesauce. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, you can hear it. It's like this thing that comes through these people, man, and it comes at
Yes.
different times. Like, and as much time as we spend together, like that, I get it from you, right? Like, and I get my practices from you, and you're able to give that to me, but you can watch it, like you can see it. It is a communication that's made without words, right?
Yeah.
It's a feeling that runs from one person to the other, from like heart to heart, man. And I didn't know, like, I didn't know that this is where we were headed. I didn't know that this was around the corner. And what I hear you saying is the same deal, man. Here we
Yeah.
go.
Here we
Here we
go.
go.
And I love that you said that energy. So we, you know, Rachel and I are, and I'll say for me, and I believe for Rachel, that we're non-denominational. We don't really practice a denomination. We don't wait till Sunday to worship in a building. We worship daily in our homes and outside and in our cars. So we don't have like traditional, what you would consider like religious or we have rituals. We do rituals. We have ritualistic practices. But it's not within, I don't think we would be like traditional, a Baptist, a Catholic, whatever. Even I think it's a blending kind of so many things that work. But I started with the God is love. So the energy of love, right? Kindness, honesty, strong values, like non-judgmental, like these type of love things. That God is love. But your experience and my experience, it's about this mystic, right? It's about this energy. It's about this thing. One of my favorite lines ever written in Alcoholics Anonymous is somebody was describing the night that Bill and Bob met for the first time. Yeah. And the statement is very short and it says something passed between them.
Yes. Yeah, it is something and it continues to grow. And that's
and isn't that something though? God passed between them. Something. There was an understanding. There was a connection. There was this thing without words. He who shall not be named, like this passed between them, and they were connected in a way that changed all of our lives and the history, around the world from that moment when something, and we get those little things every time. And if we follow Don Major's advice, right? Yeah. To get the person in front of me. You say I always mess it up. How does he say it?
Oh, give your entire interest, attention, and love
to the person in front of you.
Person or thing.
And then that allows for something, because I'm present. I'm right here with you.
Whereas God
now God can exist. Now there's room there's a space for God to come in and be part of that. When I'm rushing too fast, when I'm thinking about me, when I'm thinking about the next thing, or I'm worried about something back there, it's like, so Rachel and I work together and we move fast and we got a lot to do. We got a lot on our minds. And it's like, sometimes we'll just catch eye and breathe together because that allows something it's like this. We have to reconnect. We have to get into that space where spirit is connecting us again, and we're out of our heads and more in, in our center and in our truth,
sometimes
to be effective.
We just begin the prayer together, today walking in there, it is something that's found in the present. It is continuously. I think I actually got some new ideas about God this week.
Yay.
It depends on who you're listening to. What are you trying to do?
Talk about who, because we can talk about other things. It's not necessarily an AA meeting. Tell them about that lady you love.
Oh, which one? Are you talking about Pema Chodron? Your
Yes.
son? Okay. I love her. Yeah, that's where I started. So when I
Say her
started
name again.
Pema Chodron, Pema Chodron, Pema Chodron, and that was the like meditations that I first sent you. So it,
Yeah.
it was such a like in the beginning, I thought I had all these books. I had to read every single one of them on this page, that page. And remember how I used to do like when I was doing my prayers, I had to make sure I hit every person. If I didn't, they were gonna. And those are the old
Yeah,
ones.
you would list everybody.
Every single person over and
I
over.
said
And
it must take you forever.
I was missing sleep, right?
I
And I would
remember.
I would stare across, I would sit in the top bunk and I would stare at that wall across the way and I'd be like, I'm not even sure if I'm doing this right, but I guess I'm doing it. Right. And then you gave me this simple, very valuable tool that I sometimes use when I'm overwhelmed. And what you told me to do is just pray that God's will be done in their lives. Just pray that God's will be done in their lives. It's been an adventure of up and down, and we've been able to stand, at Bali. Remember the outside temple thing?
Yes.
Yeah, that
That was another crazy. And then we did the waterfalls. Yeah, we went to Bali
it,
and we did a
it,
lot of,
you could feel it, right? Like
uh
it was a vibration. It was something that was like I don't often feel it come from something external. I usually feel it come from people, but they
hmm
can be external, or like myself, or cats, the cat,
Yeah, we love the kitty
like
cat.
that's the energy, man. That's
Mhm.
the love that you talk about, right?
And then they purr at a frequency that is like a healing frequency or something. I read that somewhere. Somebody might have made that up to sell more cats. I don't
It's
know.
right. It's
You don't have
100%
to sell me
right.
cats. I'll collect cats, but I've
You need
heard
at
that.
least 5 to heal yourself. So
Yeah. I
you've
don't
got
know. I think we're on a good, I feel, I, and you were talking about the ebb and the flow and the going back and forth and stuff. So we learn new stuff about, myself, which I think brings me closer to God when I learn more things about you. And, I see that in the women I sponsor. So, now where you would pray incessantly and had this idea that you had to do it right,
mhm.
and just to qualify, I guess, for God's mercy or leniency or whatever, to earn that. And so the relief from that too is in our literature where it says, he makes not too hard of terms for those who seek him. Like this doesn't have to be difficult. For me, it was in sponsorship. I left God out of sponsorship. It was my job. I
Yeah.
had to give them the information. I had to read them the book. I had to make sure they did this. I had to, guide them to the spiritual awakening. I had to drag them and lay them before God and see, like I took the power. So in like you're praying for people and stuff, it's like that you were responsible. You had the power. I left God out of sponsor. I left something out of
Yes.
sponsorship and felt like it was my job and you can't mess this up. I mean, people die,
Yeah.
and I was
Don't want
very
that to be on.
serious.
No, not at all.
I took me very seriously. There was no rule 62. We're not joking around here, and that's where that 12 stomping came, that kind of aggressive, fear-based, lifestyle and transmission of the message,
Hmm.
because, I did not allow space for something, for
Yeah.
God to do what God's going to do. It was all on me and getting them through and, all that,
So
pressure.
I got a good one for you. So
Yeah.
I like this story a lot, and it has to do with sponsorship, and it has to do with the introduction of, so we're walking through 2 and we're walking into 3, right? And I had this girl, and if you want to know who, I'll tell. You remember this person, and I had this girl, right? And she was like, I can't. These things, we come in sometimes, and we bring with us also what we've had in our life experience. And sometimes people can look at these situations and say, "This, how can there be a God if this happened?"
Yes.
And this was a girl that had those experiences, right? But what she loved is she loved her dogs, right? She loved the dogs, man. And I was like, okay. I was like, your dogs ever look at something that seems to not be there? And she's
Mm.
like, all the time. There is nothing in the corner, and they are looking at the corner of the room. And I was like, is it possible, that there's actually something that they can see there? And she was like, yeah, I mean, it's possible. They do seem like they're looking at it, right? Like they stare at it for a while. And I was like, okay. Now, does it feel like it might be, I mean, the dogs aren't scared, are they? And she's like, no, dogs aren't scared. It's like they look at it for a long time as though like lovingly watching it, right? And she was like, yeah. I was like, well, here, why don't we do this then? Why don't you just pray to whatever that is in the corner that
That
the
in the
dogs are,
corner, right to whatever's in the
right?
corner. Yeah,
Whatever's in
I
the
love
corner that
that.
the dogs are looking at, man.
Yeah.
And she did that, like, and that helped carry her through, some more because she was
Yeah.
so stuck on that. She couldn't let that go in her mind.
Yeah.
It's like, and I remember you talked about how like you had the theology books and like
Oh, I
trying
thought,
to
yeah,
figure
they
out the
said God as you
definition.
understand him. I thought it was an assignment. Like I was like, holy crap, they want me to understand God, and I need to do this to be, to move on with my steps. So I thought as you understand him was an assignment. Like my
Right.
assignment was now to understand
Now you
God.
got to, the
I
whole
was like,
thing,
that
right?
is a lot to ask, but I'll do my best. I went to parochial school. I'll throw something together for you,
Oh
but
my
yeah,
God.
I
Yeah.
misunderstood the assignment, man. I did. That's
So it's
crazy.
so weird though. So like people, the things that I saw in the beginning that, started to bring me to that open mind, right? Like, so
Wow. Yeah.
we talk about having a way, like don't have a way, like cause you have a way. And so, that's why it's not going your way. Stop having
You
the
have a
way.
way. Yeah. Stop having a way. I
When I
think
was
Mike Jones gave us that. That was Sandy Beach. You would say
thanks,
that. Yeah.
Mike. We're using
Yeah.
it, buddy. Good for us.
Yeah,
Good
no,
for
Mike
you.
gave us that little, and it's so true.
Wonderful.
Mike, we've been saying that since we got back. Mary,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you having a way? Is that why you're upset?
Stop it. I actually told the class that today. I was telling
Yeah,
them about having a way. Stop with the judgment. Like you wouldn't have a way if you didn't judge,
yeah,
right? And it's the same thing with spirituality. It's the same thing with that God concept. But what happened was, I had this fixed idea. I had this idea
hmm
and there was never a personal, God to me. Every once in a while, I think I did when we were singing, my stepmom ended up dragging us to church and she was Catholic and we had to, show or whatever. And I did have like feelings like of elation, right? When I was in church, I
yeah,
didn't associate that like I do now with the power greater. I didn't associate that with God. I just didn't. I feel good right now, right? And so coming in when I'm watching these girls, man, it was like we all stood in a circle and prayed and I'm like, oh, they're my friends. I guess I'll do that with them,
yeah,
but without, I didn't have, like I didn't have what I have now. And we prayed for this lady's mom and she was like gonna go get a tumor looked at. And they went and when she came back, she was like, guys, the prayer worked. It's not detectable. They can't find it. And I was like, that was amazing to me. And that was God. This
wow,
girl went through a drive through, only had enough money to get one cheeseburger, whatever it was, but she normally ordered like two cheeseburgers, no, whatever it was, no mustard and French fries. And when she drove off and opened it, it was exactly her order she used to order and she didn't have, and that was God. That was God. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So it's like these ideas began to introduce me to maybe there couldn't be all these people thinking this around me. The religions of the world, of course, a lot of good people, maybe some people aren't as good, but like it's all out there. But
yeah.
when it came in, like when it came in and when you and I began talking more about the spiritual aspect and, Miss Delinda,
Wow, yes.
and, it
We've
became,
had incredible teachers. God gives us His best.
He does.
We've had incredible spiritual teachers and women and a few men, but women, and I love this, that are willing to share what they know, to share their time, share their energy, have their conversation, give their entire attention, love, and interest to yahoos like me and you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we are in this program that allows for those who have been around longer, to share back so we have a path. We have this place to go. We have this place where we can reach out and go, I don't know what to do. And somebody's had that experience or a similar experience and will share that with us. And when you talk about like, that was God, God just, it's those things where you go to the meeting and they're talking about exactly what's been on your mind, right? Or, and we joke about this because sometimes a speaker will say something and they don't even know, they're just telling their story. But what I hear is, Amy, you need, and I'll say, Rachel, did you hear them? They said Amy. Yeah. Rachel, I don't think that's what they said. That's what they said. I'm telling you, I heard them. Cause it seems like, when we ask for spiritual eyes to see and spiritual ears to hear, we begin to get messages and signs. And I do think, though, it's good that I misinterpret. I am prone to misinterpret things. Okay. 100%. Words, you, them. I make decisions on, what is it? Sheldon says 20% of the information. I make up the other 80% and I make a decision based on that. So I do think it's good that when, I think I'm picking up signals or signs or something, that I'm still running that past my sponsor, past you, past someone else for validation and verification. Cause it reminds me of a story when I was at the healing place. A girl got up in a meeting and just ran out. And so I followed her because at the healing place, you were responsible for your sisters. You leave together, you come back together. You don't go back without somebody. Right. So they're like, you go get her. So I go out and I'm like, hey, what you doing? And she's like, I got to go. And I'm like, where are you going? And she was like, I got to go find, whatever, her boyfriend. And I said, I don't think you should do that. She said, God told me to. And I said, God told you to leave the AA meeting and go find, who am I to argue? I don't know what God told you. But I remember thinking about the light being, having just made conscious contact. We may pay for this with all sorts of us. So as I always I think I'll run before I decide that this is what the message. I still want to verify that because I know I'm prone to misinterpretation, to misunderstanding, to swaying information based on my fears, my old ideas, just kind of becoming aware of that as a human being and knowing that I'm prone to that's what human beings do. It's certainly what I do. And having Delinda, Candace, Leslie, these women, Michelle, these women, that we trust, that we've built relationship with, to say, this is what I'm thinking. What's that sound like to you? And get that feedback to make sure we're head in the clouds, but feet firmly planted on. Now I can't believe we're almost done there, but this is what I wanted to talk to you about next was seeing where religious people are right.
Oh, I love that.
The more I learn about God, the more I realize how right they are and how confused I was about them. Yeah. All religions talk about prayer. All religions, well, not all, but most religions have some type of meditation practice involved in them, where we sit, be still, and know that I am God. If you're reading from a biblical text, of course, the monks and the Buddhists practice meditation at length. So I think that what I am finding is the more my practice develops, and that's lighting candles, and that's honoring certain days, and that's praying to certain entities. That's that's when we share together, and we like to do a palm to palm, some energy. We do some energy work. But I find similarities.
Yes.
There's nothing right original. I find so many similarities. I thought it was so different, and no religion, it's, all of that. But
Yeah.
it wasn't that they were wrong. My interpretation, my impression, my judgment of them was actually what was wrong. And I didn't, but the more I grow, the more I see where they were right. And that's what maybe they were saying the whole time, but I can't always hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So we're looking at everything. I'm looking at everything through the Rachel lens, right? What lens am I
A
wearing
lovely
today?
lens.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happened today. What is Rachel thinking? What, like what's coming up on her phone? What,
Yeah.
like what experience did she just remembering? Daggone it, man. I can't believe that. What's going on? What does the bank account look like? We'll see what kind of
See
lens
how
Rachel's
real God
wearing.
is now. 'Cause he ain't paying
Right.
me car
Yeah. How we
insurance.
gonna get that money? Like it's there. It'll
I
come. Like,
know.
right. But whatever lens I'm wearing, that's what I'm looking through. And there was definitely a time that like I did think, I couldn't see the beauty of the forest for the ugliness of one of its trees. And even
Yes.
though I thought that this is what religion was, and I'm going to pick this one person, right? I'm going to pick this one
Uh-huh.
person, and that's all of you. And also, I picked that one person and I saw it through the Rachel lens. So
Yeah.
that person was probably not even like I thought it was, right? Because I had made something up in my head about this. And so now I see us all, because I thought what they were saying was we are all perfect. We love God all the time. We don't make any mistakes. And if we do, we correct them and we tell people, and they're good, we're good, everybody's good. And that's what I thought they were saying. And now I know that we're human,
Yeah.
all of us, regardless of where you are. We talk a lot about being broken to connect. Like
Mm.
we have to be broken to connect. We could not float around our office, Amy, and be
Mm-mm.
able to talk to those people, man, and connect to them. We couldn't be able to float in the room to do that fist step with that girl, right? And be able for her to think, like, I believe that she did that, and that Me Too is real.
Yeah.
Without this brokenness and without this, like, I would rather not, with my self-obsession, but it's a difficult practice to stop. It seems to be there often, all the selfishness and self-centeredness, but what I do know is that like that prayer and that meditation, it brings me back. And if I can remember, it brings me back that I breathe.
I have my computer froze out. My
Oh,
internet's it's been doing it for 2 days. It's been
oh my God,
crazy.
I'm
But
sorry.
I know whatever you said was just probably what I needed to hear. And my computer.
It was the secret to
It was probably
life.
the thing that was
It was
gonna just, yeah,
It
take
was
it to
the
the next
one thing that was
dimension
gonna, yeah,
for me, and I
yeah,
missed it.
yeah.
Yeah, I
But
love that.
I
Yeah,
know
right.
now more we use those tools, right? Like when
Yeah.
I first got here, I wasn't using that prayer tool much, and I wasn't using that
Mm-mm.
meditation tool much. And, I doubt that a lot of it I wasn't even talking to other people with, so God can come through. But, I know that you and I are both better people, when we're
Oh,
able to hold hands and we're able to pray together and we're able
uh-huh.
to restart. And we have to do that on a pretty consistent basis.
Heck yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I think that the God, when you have God in the uh when you're when you when you keep the main thing, right?
Mhm.
And so that's where spiritual is primary, and material and physical are secondary, and tertiary to my spiritual condition, right? And then from that, all, it stays in balance. It stays in balance, and staying true to that. But I love that, line that like my head in the clouds, but my feet firmly planted on the ground, because there's practical application and work we have to do. We uh, I feel like there's a spiritual protection that surrounds us, but I mean, when you're, drinking and get high, I don't know. My ego and my fear response, right? So I came in with all the bravado
Mm-hmm.
and the tough girl image. And I think I'm the scariest thing in any room. I'm like, you pick up the hitchhiker and it's like, how'd you know I'm not a murderer? And they're like, the odds of both of us being murdered is slim. Like I had that kind of, crazy false bravado. But we're in homeless shelters and we're exposed to people and we're in, different areas of town, picking people up and stuff, things that might, be uncomfortable or frightening for other people. Maybe they're not comfortable going to those places or being around those people. We get a lot of, exposure to severe mental health.
Yeah.
And, but I always feel safe, like there's this thing, and besides just the situations and people, we talked about money, the finances, even when it gets wonky, there's this underlying.
I think we might have lost her again. I'm sure what she's saying is exactly the answer to life.
Everything will be okay. No matter what, no matter what, everything will be okay. And that foundation allows me to endure the ups and downs and and not get washed away in the waves of everything.
Everything always works out for us, Amy.
Everything always works out for us. That's right. It is 8:52. So I think, Debbie, am I right? Raquel, are we supposed to?
It's okay. People can start to send your questions. I was holding into sending the chat for everybody. If you have any questions and you would like to send it to both of them, go ahead. But if you want to raise your hand, feel free also. Thank you, Kat. We're not going to stop the recording as of yet because I do want to ask you a couple of questions. Both of you, based on what I think there was a very important, quality, particularly to this conversation, in the fact that both of you are in between the 12 and 15 years sober. Because, I agree that we get to hear these amazing giants that are like 30 years sober, and it's like, how in the world am I ever going to reach that, right? Like, okay, I'll wait the 30 years, but in the meantime, what?
Yeah.
Right? And this discovery that both of you are talking about, that in all of this, we learn how to be human.
Mm.
We learn that forgiveness to self. We learn that, let me look at life a little bit with that eyes of mystery, like Rachel was saying, what eyes do I have today? And that I can give myself permission to have that. Or where are you right now, God? Right? Now, I did not get any of your experiences with God like that. But here's the first question to you, Amy, and then I go to Rachel, because I love talking myself too, so just too much of an information for a question. Anyway, so Amy, when you said this, you heard that voice that told you, tell them what I did for you. I got goosebumps. How difficult sometimes it is to honor that, because it's like, is that real? But how needed it is. Yeah. How it lands properly to those who need to hear it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no question about it, right? So my question first to you, and I'll pose the question to Rachel and then both of you answer. My question to you is, how do you continue to do that unapologetically?
Well, I hope that, I demonstrate that. I hope that my goal is to emulate the men and women whose shoulders I stand on. And they didn't have to tell you a lot, because I watch people. I hope that through my actions, behaviors, my tone, if someone sees me interacting with someone else, if someone hears me on the phone, if someone sees me working with a sponsor, have a camera in my living room and see how I talk to my husband or take care of my animals or hold my grandchildren. I hope that everything I do is a message, right? Everywhere we go, where your message is something, you're carrying some kind of message, and you get to pick what that message is. And I hope that people see, like Rachel said, this human being, but I hope to be loving and kind.
Mm.
I hope to be loving and kind. I hope to love me and the people around me. And I hope that that's my message. As far as like telling people that, when I'm at the podium, I tell my story. And I think that is telling it. I don't always tell specifically about that spiritual experience, because what God did and what I believe is when he said, when Spirit said, tell someone what I've done, I think I do that every time I tell someone about how I arrived in Alcoholics Anonymous, went through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and began to practice these principles and our traditions and 10, 11, 12 throughout my life. Because it's not just this, it's the story of what God has done through the vehicle of Alcoholics Anonymous. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. 100%.
And I hope that my entire life is a testament to that. I hope that is louder even in my behaviors than my spoken word.
Oh, thank you so much. The meeting is 1 hour and 15 minutes for those of you who don't know, so we're okay, and we're going to go to Candace soon. Rachel, I wanted to ask you, in your meditation practice, do you think that has really played like a big role in the self-forgiveness? For whatever reason, I hear a lot from you, that whole idea of self-forgiveness. Do you kind of connect that to your meditation practice, you think?
I think that doing a regular practice, I think it is. I think I sit almost every morning and do meditation. I keep a pad of paper next to me, and I write down things. Sometimes it's just Rachel, right? But then I write down other things that come to me, people, words, ideas, whatever it is that comes to me. But as far as like self-forgiveness, I try to do the best that I can, it's my biggest part. They try not to have regrets of the past or shut the door on them or whatever. But like one of the biggest parts is like who I was not able to be for my daughter, what my daughter had to see, like that is one of the biggest things that it's such a big part of my story, and I see it in her life. And so in order for me to try to forgive myself for that, to try to fill that spot that I have inside with God instead of those regrets, I try to do the best I can and not always, I kind of parent out of guilt, but I try to do the best I can to be her mom and to be my other daughter's mom, and part of that is I've had to make amends to Kaylin. Like I have been fed up, and I've said things that you shouldn't say to your daughter, like that's not kind, that's not love, and so once making amends to her as I've continued to walk this road and talk to women that, are moms and that are alcoholic moms, in recovery, I've been able to, be a better mom because Women in Alcoholics Anonymous showed me, and the men showed me how to be moms and dads and what we're supposed to do. And I think the more that I get to do that, the more I get those opportunities, and I do what I think my higher power, like what would my higher power want me to do here? What is the kind, loving, and compassionate thing? I think it helps me, with that connection to be able to do what I need to do to help with the self-forgiveness.
Oh, thank you, Rachel. Candace, where are you? Did you leave?
She's in there, but she put her hand down. She did send it to me in a direct message.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't see that we were supposed to. I was like, I can't put it in
raise your hand.
No,
okay, go ahead.
I want you. We want you, Candace. Go ahead.
Okay, so thanks both of you. And my name is Candace, so it's for my friend Amy. Have you ever lost your faith during the time you've been sober, and why and how were you able to rebuild it?
Thank you so much. I don't know. So I think I became agnostic, right? And I go to a big book workshop with Candace on Tuesday nights that she hosts, and I love it. But we talk about and you hear it sometimes in the rooms about agnosticism. So I never lost faith that God exists and God is real, and this spirit in this universal energy, that this creative, this depth of creativity force, and God is love, and I've always believed that exists. But I'll get pockets of agnosticism, and I'll get agnostic that that God's not concerned with my kids, and I got to take care of that. God's not doing what I want in certain relationships, right? So it's not that that there's a faith, like there's a knowing that it exists, but it becomes agnosticism. And it's when I'm in fear. It's when I'm uncertain and I like God to share the plan with me. I think it would all be fine if we could just discuss it, how he's going to work it out, who he's going to send, or, how she's going to, and then this will happen, and don't worry, sweetheart, I've got it under control. And I want God to have that conversation with me. Yeah. And he doesn't. And so so then these doubts show up. Will he do it? I don't know. I don't think God's going to do it. I don't think that must not be what he has for me. It must be. And I love Rachel, and I always talk about, I make decisions. I just decide this is what God's going to do. This is what God's not going to do. This is the way this is. It'll all, and everything's permanent. It will always be this way. It'll never be different. I use absolutes, and words that are not true. They have no truth to them. Nothing is always. And so I think that my faith has waned at different times. And when my children struggled with mental health, my two youngest children struggled through adolescence and were suicidal at different times. And I remember coming home from a corporate job. I was working a big fancy corporate nursing position as a compliance officer, and a lot of pressure, a lot of stress building out a new company. And I would give it all at work, and my career was going great. But I would pull back in my driveway, and my son lived here with me at the time. And I would sit in my driveway paralyzed by fear. I couldn't walk inside because I was scared that he would have killed himself, and that I would be walking in to find that. And I would get the courage to walk in the front door, and I would go to his room, and he had the door shut, and I would knock, and then I would hold my breath until he answered, until he said, "Yeah, Mom." And I could breathe again. And those were scary times. And I thought, what if I don't agree with God's plan? And I have friends who've buried children. And I don't know what you do in those crises of faith. I am an action and more action girl. So no matter what I think, feel, or believe, I have trained feet and I do the things. So I still go to the detox and keep the H&I commitment. I still sponsor the women, and I still go to the home group, and I still show up where I'm supposed to be. And that routine, that we talk about the ritual of God, right? And practice and spiritual worship and practice. My ritual looks like Tuesday nights at 9:00, Thursday mornings at 10:30, Thursday night at 6:30. My ritual looks like showing up where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there. It looks like that call with my sponsor and answering my phone and going to the detox and listening to the fifth stuff. And so I stay in the work until what I think, feel, or believe has time to kind of catch up. But that holds me, that kind of holds me safe and sober. When all about me seems lost, right? And so I keep to do those things so that I can maintain sobriety, and then the faith comes back, right? As it just waxes and wanes. Candace, thank you for that question. I had forgot about that period of time. That boy is 30 now. He's still in that room, but he came back with a beautiful girlfriend and a baby, and everybody's fine.
Oh, thank you. Anybody else has another question? I cannot believe that there are no questions. I wanted to just open on mute and have a cup of tea with both of you. Any other question? Daryl, there you go, Daryl.
Hey, Daryl Alcoholic.
Hey, Daryl.
What's going on, friends? I just wanted to say thank you. It's so good to see you guys and to hear you. Also, Raquel, thanks for letting Bobby and Brent and I come to the women's meeting this evening. That was really cool. I love this format. And, we talk a lot about God being everything or he's nothing, like what's our choice to be. Both of you, when you're working with somebody and or even talking with somebody else, in the program or even reflecting, what are some of the things that you share, you consider when you think about that consideration in step 2?
Yeah, I think that the proposition that God is everything or he is nothing, what is your choice to be? Especially in the beginning, if it's my first time through the steps, that's pretty extreme. Like, I don't know. I said, yes, he's everything because that seemed like the right answer to say to my sponsor so that we could go on to step 3, right? Because I'm trying to be correct. I want an A on the paper. So I give the answer, I think, win me the star grade. But when I look back, those pockets of agnosticism, that's what keeps coming up for me. I think that God is everything in your life and God is everything. He's the czar of the heavens. Honestly, so I think we digested, there's a biblical line, and I'm not necessarily a person who believes in the Bible, but I do think there's some good ideas and Psalms and things we can take nuggets and, but there's an idea in there that you don't feed a baby steak. A baby eats oatmeal, right? We feed a baby rice pudding because that's what a baby can digest. That's where they are in their growth and in their systems and what their systems need. And then as we grow, we get, so the fact that I feel like early in recovery, God is everything, he is nothing seems like a tomahawk steak. And I'm an infant. I'm an infant in my spirituality. I'm an infant in sobriety. I'm an infant in my development. So there needs to be a gentler, feeding of that. Like we will come. Step 2 doesn't say I believe. It says I came to believe. So it allows this space. And then really when we're looking at the logistical, the linguistics of our steps, it says at 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I am not fully sold on the God idea in step 2. I'm not, right? I need the work of the steps, as I move on and move forward and this relationship with God begins to develop. I think once I've completed the 12 steps and the more I see evidence of God, like Rachel said, and the people around me and in my own life, that faith builds. Where I once had beliefs, I now have faith. I thought something, now I rely on it. And that conversion happens over time through experience over and over again as I move through the steps and continue to work with other women. But I make no demands of anyone that on step 2, they eat the tomahawk steak, right? Or that they have had, that they have this relationship with God, that is enough, right? It's just not. That's step 2. We got to get through the rest of the steps. Now, having had spiritual awakening as a result of all these steps, now I have a foundation for that to grow in effectiveness and understanding, and I'm going to keep building on that as I move forward.
Cool, thank you, Rach. What about you?
So God is everything, or he's nothing. What's your choice to be? So interesting story. Some people have had similar stories, so it's like a step 3 experience. So I was still at the homeless shelter, right? And like suddenly, this step 3 experience that I had, like it was insane. I kept seeing like signs I would see a piece of wrapper in the hallway and I would be like, it's God, like I would see billboards and I would be like, oh my gosh, look at that. There was numbers on houses and I was like, oh my gosh, 614, like it was, so there was a period that like during this time, and I think it was a gift or whatever, but it was like insane and there was a girl that experienced that. We had buddies and you would take them, the older sister would take the younger sister and we would go to the doctors, right? And there was a buddy that was with me during this period of time, but she had the same experience. So how does that happen? That she kept seeing all of these things, right? And we experienced this together. And this was a lady that coming into this program was an atheist. Like there was no God, right? And for me, I think that we have to, I don't know. For me, my experience has been, that there are those pockets of agnosticism, right? Like there are those moments that like, what is our friend Diane says, God's got, Tennessee, or the world, I'll take Nashville, right? What is it? Like what are we talking about? And, I heard a lady say, yesterday, she said that, like her phrase now is, can you trust this time? Can you trust this time? And that's just a different way to say it. I've had that, God is either everything or he's nothing. What's my choice to be? It's actually right there. I'm staring at it, and then on the other side, I added this new one. Can you trust this time? Because as we look back, right, and we become a detective in our lives from the time we got sober, even though some of the things might have been undesirable, and even in our lives, right? Even though some things might have been undesirable, man, didn't it turn out great? Don't we have some pretty good lives?
Things always work out for us.
Things always work out for us.
Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you, everybody. And we're going to stop the recording now. In closing,